Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a magic item out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Manual of Golems. This was a neat little magic item that's in here that allows you to create golems, which are called out in the monster manual. So I didn't know if I should call today a magic item feature or a creature feature, uh, depending on that. So it's kind of a hybrid of both. We're going to take a look at the Manual of Golems, and how you can create golems using it, or in the monster manual, it shows you how to use other methods to create golems. We're going to take a look at all the basic 4 golems you can create with the manual. Also, very quickly, subscribers, please do. Still wanting to grow the channel. It's slowed a little bit, but we'll get there. It'll come back. So please take a look. If you can subscribe, that'd be great. If you know anybody on the fence, kick them in the butt. Have them subscribe. We talk about games here a lot. Also, I have a Patreon going, so please take a look at that. Existing subscribers and patrons, thank you very much to both. Also, I will be at Adepticon this coming Saturday, March 25th. Just running around. I'm not doing any events or anything. I'm just going to be wandering around, but there's a really good presence there. There's no role playing, so sorry. And there's no battle system either. But there are plenty of other games that are both fantasy and science fiction to take a look at and just enjoy. Entry is free, and you can kind of wander around the halls and go to the vendor hall. It's a really good time. My sons and I go there every year. But that's it for the commercial. Back to the important stuff. Manual of Golems, today on page 121. Manual of Golems from the Dungeon Master's Guide. This book was published in 1979, as I've said many times in the channel before. And we get the very fine Manual of Golems out of it. What the heck is that? Well, a golem is a big monster creature that you can create. And it can be a creature that will guard your lair or your keep, or you can take in adventures with you, and I'll go into that in a little bit. So the Manual of Golems, the compilation, is a treatise on the construction and animation of a golem. It contains all the information and incantations necessary to make one of the 4 sorts of golem. It will take a considerable amount of time and be expensive as well to construct and animate the golem. During this period, a single magic user or cleric must have the manual at hand to study, and he or she must not be interrupted. The type of manual to is found is determined as below. So you get the clay golem, which takes a month to build and costs 65,000 gold pieces, and that's for clerics only. A flesh golem for magic users only, 2 months to construct and 50,000 gold pieces. An iron golem, the big daddy of them, a magic user only, 4 months, 100,000 gold pieces. And a stone golem for magic users only, 3 months, 80,000 gold pieces. Once the golem is finished, the writing fades and the book is consumed in flames. When the ashes of the manual are sprinkled upon the golem, it becomes fully animated. It is assumed that the user of the manual is 10th level or higher. For every level of experience under 10th level, there is a cumulative 10% chance that the golem will fall to pieces within 1 turn of completion of its construction due to the maker's imperfect understanding. And then the typical nasty stuff if you don't read the appropriate, if you're not the right class to read the tome. If a cleric reads a work for magic users, he or she will lose 10,000 to 60,000 experience points. A magic user reading a clerical work will lose 1 level of experience. Any other class of character will suffer 6 to 36 hit points of damage from opening the work. So, as per the old books, pretty stiff penalties for reading something that wasn't written for your class. And the golems are pretty good. This is a good way for a dungeon master to go ahead and get some excess cash out of a campaign. The cheapest golem out here is going to cost you 50,000 gold pieces, and that's a flesh golem. You get up to 100,000 with the iron golem. And I did have people taking these into dungeons for a while. I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I go through the monster descriptions. So you kind of have to be careful about that. They're slow moving, and they can kind of tend to overshadow a lot of other players in the game. So you got to be careful about letting players take these into dungeons. And I had a couple players that were particularly obnoxious with their golems, and I was able to deal with that situation. I actually had 2 players playing characters that each had an iron golem that they had legitimately brought up, and they brought them in my game at that old club I used to run. And they really wanted to play them. They were around 10th level magic users. They'd each gotten the book. They had each put in the requisite time and money. And I knew the DM that had run the game, so I took them aside and talked to them before. I said yes, and I asked him about it. He said, "Oh no, they did their diligence. It was all legitimate. Go ahead if you want." So I said, "Okay," and I let him in my game. These two guys would not stop hogging all the action. The golems always went first. They always went tramping through doors first. No matter what, they were smashing down all the doors rather than subtly opening them or leaving any kind of chance to close the door behind them. And it was irritating the rest of the party. I had asked them to dial it back after a game or so, and they continued doing it in the next game. And by the third game, I had it. We only met once a month, and I really didn't like anybody just kind of dominating the game over anybody else. So I had decided if they were going to continue in the third month, I'd have a few things waiting for them. One thing I had waiting for the golem who smashed through the doorway was a pit trap on the far side, 50-foot deep pit. Iron golems are very heavy. Iron golems are also immune to spells. They couldn't get the thing out of the pit. So that kind of solved that problem. And then the next guy, again, was not changing his ways, having seen even what happened to his friend. He met up with a rust monster, and I had to take care of it that way. So they were both good sports about it. They stayed in my game for at least another year after that with those characters and had a lot of fun. But they finally got the point that I wasn't kidding. I wanted those golems to quit commanding the game. So that's it for our look at the book itself. Now we're going to take a look at the golem from the monster manual. There are 4 types, as I just read. So we're going to take a look at those guys. And here we go. Golem. Golems are magically created creatures. There are 4 different sorts, and each will be detailed separately. All but the flesh golems are created from earthen components. The flesh golem is created from the remains of humans. Creation of a golem involves ultra-powerful spells and elemental forces. Magical creatures with hit dice equal to or greater than those of the golem are able to attack with effect. So if the golem has the equivalent of 10 dice, or 9 dice, and I have a 10 dice creature attack it can damage it. Strangely how they did this, but for purposes of determination of hit dice, figure 4.5 hit points per hit die and round it up. Thus, a flesh golem is 9 dice equivalent, a clay golem 11, a stone golem 14, and an iron golem 18. I don't know why they didn't just list the hit dice here with the hit points parenthetically, but that's how they chose to do it. So we get the clay golem first. He's armor class 7, 50 hit points. He strikes for 1 attack in a round for 3 to 30 damage. And then see below for most of his stuff, and he is a large creature. A clay golem can be created by a lawful good cleric of 17th or higher level, unless a magical tome is used, in which case a lower level cleric can create one. And oddly enough, doesn't say anything about the alignment. So if you have the book, you can create one, whatever your alignment. It requires a resurrection spell, an animate object spell, a commune spell, a prayer spell, and a bless spell. The cleric must first fashion a man-shaped clay statue, and once this is sculpted, the cleric must go through an uninterrupted ritual using the spells delineated. Materials to do the spell require an outlay of 20,000 gold pieces. Vestments for the ritual cost another 30,000 gold pieces minimum. Once created, the clay golem is under the command of the cleric who created it. Each melee round, the clay golem is in combat. There's a 1% cumulative chance that it will be imbued with a chaotic evil spirit. If this happens, the clay golem immediately passes from the control of the cleric and attacks any living thing, moving to the closest one to attack and proceeding after the next one after killing it. This behavior will continue until the golem is destroyed, for control can never be regained. This is the kicker here. Damage inflicted upon living matter by a clay golem is only reparable by means of a healing spell of a cleric of 17th level or greater. That's not a heal spell. It's any healing, but you have to have a cleric of 17th level or greater. You can't regain your hit points. That's pretty good. As far as the takeover by the chaotic evil spirit, it never says if that is per combat round per combat or all the life of the golem. So I've pulled that out because I understand that goes back to the roots of the golem and the mythology of the golem, but that's not what I want, and that was another Gary Gygax kind of screw the players. 1% per round of combat. It's not hard to imagine this creature getting to 100 rounds of combat, in which case you're guaranteed to lose your investment. So I pulled that out. I once did a clay golem and I decided that the clay golem was not quite done properly, and the clay was soft. It had not hardened in the process of making the clay golem, so that when weapons struck it, they had base 25% chance of sticking in the golem and not being able to be pulled out. It was just something I did just to make the encounter a little different. Oh, I missed a little section here. Attacks by a clay golem are based on 11 dice. Once per day, the golem can be hasted for 3 melee rounds after engaging at least 1 round of combat. During this period, it strikes twice per round. If out of control, the golem will immediately haste itself if it has not previously done so. That is pretty dangerous. Clay golems can be struck only by blunt magical weapons such as hammers and maces. Other weapons do not affect it. Spells do not affect it except as follows. Move Earth will drive the golem back 12 inches and inflicts 3 to 36 hit points of damage. Disintegrate will slow the golem 50% and inflicts 1 to 12 points of damage, and an Earthquake cast directly at the clay golem will stop it from moving that turn and inflict 5 to 50 points of damage. I make that a round. I don't make that a turn. I'm not going to leave it immobile for an entire turn. But the making it a gummy clay was kind of fun, with the blunt weapons only being able to be used to attack it. And in fact, one of my players had a dwarven thrower and threw it at the clay golem, and I ruled that the dwarven thrower was automatically stuck, just to give the players a little something else to worry about. Next, we're going to take a look at the flesh golem. Flesh golem. Flesh golem, the quickest analog for this is Frankenstein's monster. It's armor class 9, 40 hit points. He goes as flesh golem, has 9 dice, 9 hit dice, 2 attacks per round, 2 to 16 damage, and of course he's large. Flesh golem can be created by means of a magical tome or a high-level magic user employing a wish spell, a polymorph any object, a geisha, a protection from normal missiles, and a strength spell. The latter case demands a level of magic use at least a 14th. So if you're 14th, you can't cast a wish spell, so apparently you can pay to have somebody cast that spell for you. The cost of materials is 1,000 gold pieces per hit point of the golem. It requires 1 month to fashion the creature. So that'd be 40,000 gold pieces. Creator of the flesh golem controls the monster, being able to have it follow simple commands. Go ahead, stop, kill, etc. The master of the golem can have it suspend its functions until a set event takes place, such as someone entering a room. These are really good guardians, a great thing to put in your dungeons. However, each turn of melee the flesh golem engages in, there's a 1% random chance that it will go berserk, attacking at random everything in sight. The monster's master has a 10% per melee round chance of regaining control of the golem. I think that's a little nod to the old Universal Monsters Frankenstein films, where the creature would be get commanded by Dr. Frankenstein or whoever it was in the film, and then for whatever reason he would fly out of control and then have to have control regained. I do allow that usually. Flesh golem is very powerful and able to smash through doors and wooden structures of normal construction. For example, a flesh golem would break through an oaken door with an iron reinforcing bands and hinges in 5 to 8 melee rounds. Does 1 structural point of wooden construction damage for every 3 melee rounds of attack. Normal weapons do not harm flesh golems, but magical weapons have normal effect. Spells of most sort have no effect on the monsters, but fire or cold-based spells, such as Wall of Fire, Fireball, Ice Storm, slow the golem by 50% for 2 to 12 melee rounds. Electrical attacks restore damage to the golem in direct relation to the number of dice of damage normally done. That is, a 6-hit dice lightning bolt restores 6 points of damage. So again, that's your weakest golem. I actually put one in the game not terribly long ago, and I put him in a full set of plate mail. I had decided the magic user had wanted to reinforce his golem, so he put him in a fine suit of full plate. Being this thing only moves at 8 inches, it didn't really affect it any. I just thought that was kind of fun, and the players actually had a pretty good time with it. We had a flesh golem with a good armor class. Now we have, of course, the favorite, the iron golem. Armor class 3, 80 hit points. This guy goes at 18 hit dice. 1 attack for 4 to 40 damage. And of course, he's large. Construction of an iron golem, bipedal and manlike, requires a magical tome of a magic user of 18th or higher level employing the following spells: Wish, Polymorph any object, Geish, and Cloud Kill. The cost of materials is 1,000 gold pieces per hit point, and it requires 3 months construction time. So that'd be 80,000 gold pieces. The golem created always remains under the command of the magic user who created it. It can obey any simple commands. It will stand non-functioning as guard until some event takes place, until a door is opened, a book read, etc. In addition to striking, an iron golem will be able to breathe out a cloud of poisonous gas in a 10 by 10 by 10 area directly before it once every 7 melee rounds. I make that a save or die. I have also done it as a save or turn to stone. I have also done it as just a slow gas because sometimes that's fun. Gary Gygax put one of these in module WG5 with a whip made of cockatrice feathers that if it struck you with the whip, it paralyzed you. I thought that was kind of a neat touch. Strength of an iron golem is 3 times greater than that of a flesh golem. An iron golem can do 1 point of structural damage per melee round. That's to anything, so they can smash down a building. An iron golem can be struck only by magic weapons of +3 or greater enchantment. Normal and magical weapons under +3 do no damage. The only magical attacks which affect the iron golem are electrical, such as fire attacks, repair damage on a 1-for-1 basis, and a lightning bolt slows them by 50% for 3 melee rounds. Iron golems are subject to attack from rust monsters. Now, we've also ruled that they do not naturally rust. So if you drop them into a pit full of water, they won't rust. They are magical after all. And the rust monster I've ruled is a little different than ordinary oxidization. So it's just how I've done it at my table. And finally, we get to the ever wonderful stone golem. The iron golem, real quick. He only moves at 6 inches. And this goes to the problem I had in my game. I had a party literally creeping through a dungeon at a 6-inch movement rate because I had the golems in front slowing things down. These players would insist the golems went first. They would smash through all the doors. They destroyed a lot of treasure because they would smash open chests. So it was just kind of obnoxious thing was letting the other players just kind of stand and watch. So I had to take care of it. Now the stone golem, number appearing 1, 5 armor class, 60 hit points. The stone golem for his part goes at 14 dice. He attacks once for 3 to 24 damage. The stone golem is a man-like creature. Man-like shape are constructed by means of a magical tome or a magic user of 16th or higher level, employing the following spells: Wish, Polymorph any object, Geish, and Slow. Cost of materials is 1,000 gold pieces per hit point, so it'd be 60,000 GP, and it requires 2 months of construction time. Once created, the stone golem can be controlled by its creator, and it will understand and obey simple commands: attack, stop, wait, go, etc. The golem can be made to stand and wait for an attack until someone does something to trigger the golem. In addition to its normal attack, the stone golem is able to cast a slow spell on any opponent within 10 feet of its front facing every other melee round. I give that in addition to the attack. That can be quite devastating quite quick. The strength of a stone golem is twice that of a flesh golem. It does 1 point of structural damage every other melee round, so it too can smash down buildings. Normal weapons do not harm golems. In fact, it requires a weapon of +2 or greater enchantment to damage them. The only spells which affect the stone golem are Rock to Mud slows the golem 50% for 2 to 12 melee rounds. Mud to Rock restores all damage suffered by the golem. And Stone to Flesh makes the golem vulnerable to normal attacks on the following melee round. So as you see, there's a lot of nice stuff to unpack in golems. They're not just simple little creatures, and they can be a lot of fun. Of course, over the years, D&D's gotten more sophisticated, and even in later first edition, Dragon articles and such, we had all kinds of different golems coming up. Glass golems, marble golems. I made an adamantium golem. We have adamantium in my Greyhawk because most of us, when we started playing, many of us were comic book fans. Adamantium, of course, is the stuff that Wolverine's bones and claws are made out of. Vibranium also exists in my Greyhawk. And I made an adamantium golem who was quite formidable. He was guarding a wizard's lair. This is a very high-level game I did many years ago. And the adamantium golem was charged with only protecting a certain area, but he was armor class -10. I think I gave him 200 hit points. He was only able to be harmed by plus 4 or better weapons, immune to spells, and they never did find out if any spells would actually affect him, and moved at 12 inches. He got 2 attacks per round for 6 to 60 damage. He was extremely dangerous for the players, and I had a lot of fun with him because he was in a key area that they had to pass through to get deeper into the dungeon. So if they left, they had to pass through and then go pass through on the way back in. So he vexed them for quite a bit. They never really did figure out a way to deal with him. And I never really bothered writing in anything because I knew he was going to be more of a, once they got over the initial attack, he was just going to be a recurring distraction in that one area of the dungeon. He was a lot of fun. So there you have it. There's my look at Golems from the manual of Golems. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Go ahead and comment. And that's it. I'll see you next time on page 121.